So, a question I get all the time in my practice is how do I tell a dismissive avoidant that they're a dismissive avoidant? If you don't know what a dismissive avoidant is, you are in for a treat. A dismissive avoidant is someone who grew up inside of a family where there was pretty profound emotional neglect. And the thing about dismissive avoidance is they have no idea that they were emotionally neglected as children. Long story short, they basically grew up in a household of, don't cry or I'll give you something to cry about. You're okay, you're fine, stop being upset, go and do whatever you're supposed to do. Focuses on responsibility and achievement over emotional attunement. So then they grow up in inside of relationships. They can start out kind of strong, but then they grow very emotionally distant over time. They stop meeting your needs. They struggle with emotional vulnerability. They really keep you at a distance. And they have a ton of quirks that really confuse people. They tend to be workaholics. They tend to be really private people. They tend to avoid anything vulnerable, and they definitely skirt their way out of conflict as much as they can. It's really hard to get them to talk about things and settle things when there's a disruption in the relationship. So the partners of these folks often want to know, how can I tell my partner that this is what they have going on so that maybe they can get some help, so that maybe we can have a decent relationship? And what really stinks is that they have this huge defectiveness wound that you have to work around because they take any emotion or any feedback, essentially anything that could be perceived as criticism, really, really hard. It activates their defectiveness wound, it activates their shame, and they will absolutely reject it and retreat even more. So if you're with someone that has these characteristics and you want them to get some help or you want to get help with them, it's like, how do you approach it, right? Because if you approach it like, hey, I think you have dismissive avoidant attachment, they're going to be like, you're labeling me. That's not fair. You're giving me a diagnosis or all this other stuff. And they're going to get really activated into their shame and they're going to shut down. So what I tell people to do is, number one, know that you can't control someone else. If someone really doesn't want to improve your relationship, they're not going to try to improve your relationship. They have to want it. And their issues are really, truly capacity issues. So they need the proper tools to help them, come out of this insecure attachment style and into attachment security where they can have a respectful, loving relationship where they are truly intimate and vulnerable. The only way I know how to bring it up is to say, hey, I found this really interesting information about attachment style. It's really solid psychological science. I think I know what my attachment style is. What do you think yours is? I'm really interested in what you think. 9 times out of 10, they'll go, yeah, I think I'm a dismissive avoidant. And you can go, well, okay, I mean, that makes sense. We have different attachment blueprints, and that might explain why sometimes we have difficulty with XYZ. What do you think about getting some advice on how we can make our attachment blueprints closer together so that we can improve our relationship? That is the only thing I have ever seen work. If you would like more information on attachment, you can see me at my website, thedatingdecoder.com, very soon to be thelovedoc.com. Same business, different name. Now you can use code LOVE14 for 14% off all of my services good through this weekend.